Welcome back to another episode of the Deer Gear Podcast. Man, are we getting close to season here for myself. I'll be headed to North Dakota in just about a month from today, honestly. That is one of my favorite trips of the year, and it has me really excited. Season is approaching quickly. I was out glassing bucks last night, and man, the time is here. And in today's episode for the Deer Gear Podcast, Dorge and I are talking about mechanical broadheads. We spend a lot of time talking about fixed blade broadheads and what makes a good fixed blade broadhead, the design, and we haven't really talked about mechanical broadheads, and there is a lot of guys still shooting mechanical broadheads. I definitely get the benefits of them, and a really good friend of mine, Dan Baez, has been going down the wormhole of broadheads for the last few years, and he's going back to mechanicals this year, and I think it's justified in some cases. So I was curious to learn more about mechanical broadhead design, what makes a good one, the difference between rear deploying, front deploying, how much energy is actually required to open these things, and the pros and cons. So that's what today's conversation is all about. Before I get into the podcast, like I said, guys, archery season is right around the corner, and if you need to get some new arrows, now is a really great time. The Exodus Velvet Fest sale is live. It's the official start to deer season. Everyone around the office, everyone around deer hunting is getting fired up. So on the entire website, arrows, cameras, accessories, it's 15% off with the code VFEST23. And we have a different special every week. So this week, launched today, you can get 4 Exodus Rivals for $5.99. That's $120 of savings. You're almost getting a camera free. So use the code RIVAL4 at checkout to take advantage of that savings, and then VFEST23 to buy anything else on the website, 15% off. Don't wait, guys. Season is right around the corner. We need to be getting our stuff dialed in. If you're running cell cameras, run them behind the house, get the kinks worked out, make sure you know how to operate them. That way when you put them out in the woods for the fall, they don't give you any headaches. That's all I have for the announcements, guys. Let's get into the podcast. Have a great Friday, and here we go. All right, everyone. Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of the Deer Gear Podcast. Dorge, it's early for you.
Yes, it is. I just come back from fishing.
That's Dorge's main passion. Is that right?
Yes.
So if you think he's a nut about bows and arrows and stuff, you should see the fishing collection. But that's a whole nother animal there. But
No,
so
it's
today,
another herd.
yeah, true. That's not just a single animal.
It's a herd.
So
Or a species.
something that's kind of fresh on my mind as we're building a ton of arrows, and as you know, and as the listeners know, the first question to ask folks when we're building an arrow is, what is the broadhead that you have to shoot? And that topic of broadheads it's always been popular, but the mechanical broadhead had like a super big shining moment in years past, and then it seems like the fixed blade broadhead is like taken over, but there's still quite a bit of folks shooting mechanical broadheads, and I want to know what makes a good mechanical broadhead. If that is the broadhead that folks are wanting to shoot because they want a bigger cut and more forgiving flight, what makes a mechanical broadhead good?
Well, first of all, let me sort of go back to history a little bit. So we know the first broadhead is called the blood trailer or something like that. It actually is a broadhead with multiple blades on it that come from it that come out in the 1990s. And then 2 segment of broadhead comes in. One is like the originator of Rage, which is the Rocky Mountain Gators. That means the blade go from the forward to the backward and spread. That's how the Rocky Mountain Gator worked. And then, of course, the other main school is the new archery product Spitfire, which the blade go from the front, you open it, it move from the front to the back. In other words, it's a swing from the front of the broadhead to the back of the broadhead. All this broadhead give a lot of people who don't know how to tune bows, the guy who shoot under spine, a really good arrow flight to a certain extent. But all those broadhead have one major downside, is that if you ever shoot, just like the way today, if you shoot a range and you do a quarter away 35 degree or more, those broadhead have one condition you pretty must do, is to shoot the angle point blank. In other words, as perpendicular as you can. Because if you don't, the blade deployment can cause the arrow to actually swing out of the animal, having about maybe 1 inch penetration, and the arrow swing out. That happens the most in the Spitfire. It is not the design. You need to understand, just like everything design, they have downside, they have upside. And those design, if you shoot quarter away at an angle towards your target. Now imagine this, your point barely touches it. Your side blade contact with the animal. The blade is trying to open. That moment you push the tip of the broadhead away from the target. At the same time, or using the tip as a pivot point, the whole arrow swing over. Now you have no penetration. The arrow literally drop off the animal with maybe 1 inch penetration. Those are the design. Is that a better design? I mean, of course, that is something like the Swaggers, the Savers, and all those. They all are great as long as you shoot point blank. That means that you point the animal at, say, 90 degree, and the arrow goes in. The higher the angles, the worse it gets. Now, mechanical broadhead, very much just like a fixed blade. Now, anybody who shoots fixed blades for a while should fully understand, you should practice with the fixed blade. The reason, because just like every single broadhead, the front of the blade would change the FOC of your entire arrow. So wait a minute, I'm shooting 100 grain, same thing. No, you're not, because your fixed blade is actually, if you have a fixed blade that's longer, bigger than the field point, your FOC changed.
The aspect ratio of the broadhead versus the field points.
Correct. Now, then people say, well, wouldn't mechanicals resolve the problem? There is no major, that's what is major aerodynamic effect. Answer is that, again, speed is the critical part. If you're shooting 270, 280, the effect is not that big. And mechanical head, in most cases, as long as you practice enough, and that's the reason I have to give a lot of credit to guys like Rage who give you a practice head, which is the same size as your mechanical broadhead. Which now you can practice with it. It gives you a very reasonable, and sometimes as close to, say, 95% of what the broadhead would flies. Now, that said, a lot of people thinking mechanical broadhead will give you a lot of cut. I mean, just like in everything in this planet or this world we live in, there's no free lunch. So the real question you need to ask is, what am I giving up? Every single mechanical broadhead, I would say, which about 3 or 4 of them I can think of, that do not have the penalty of blade deployment. Nearly every broadhead you shoot, the blade deployment of KE initial loss is dramatic. I mean, let me think. My personal opinion, okay? I don't have absolute proof to it, but if you shoot low poundage, I would say 40, 50, don't use Spitfire. Because see, you may shoot a 2-blade, but 3-blade is going to really be bad. Because every single blade need to hit, and hit so hard, you need to push the blade backwards to deploy it. Now, the fact remains, there's no broadhead I know of that will penetrate faster, deeper, easier with low energy than the old Ramcat SPG. That's bar none. But then you only got a 1-inch cut. And you know how people are obsessed with, oh, I got a 3-inch cut hole. I mean, I understand. Some people have the need to see the cut. I understand. Not that I agree with, but just like a lot of things we don't agree, but they have the right to use what they have, and if used correctly, it will kill. Absolutely. I mean, is a 3-inch hole better than a 1-inch hole? In what way is the question? No, a 3 inch is not better than 1 inch. Because in most cases, if you do not know how to shoot that 3 inch mechanical, or you never make the target, oh yes, you can cut the leg off and you bleed to death. I understand. I fully do. And I'm not gonna argue that. But I would like to see somebody shoot those 3 inch cutting ability broadhead, or 6 inch cutting broadhead. I saw somebody did it. Half the arrow is the broadhead. I fully understand that, but not that I agree. Sorry, can't help myself.
I think
I try to not be sarcastic.
I think I think a missed point in some of the mechanical broadheads when you start talking about cutting diameter, not only does a larger cutting diameter require more kinetic energy to open. So as you stated, like if you're a lower pounded shooter, you don't have that much kinetic energy to give up. And
Mm-hmm,
we need penetration. We need
mm-hmm.
um we need to get 2 holes instead of one. And if you have a
Correct.
3 inch hole on the one side of the deer and nothing on the other side of the deer, a 1 inch hole on both sides, in my opinion, is better. But when you talk about structural integrity of your broadhead, the longer the
Mm-hmm.
blades are to meet the grain requirements to be 100 grains or 125 grains, the thinner the blades have to be to get the weight down. I mean, not necessarily, you could be in the ferrule, but most of the time, if you have a 2 inch cut blade, it's a thin blade and you're going to lose
Well,
structural
actually,
integrity.
that's another thing I agree and disagree with it. Because you remember, structural integrity of a broadhead is another misconception. The only thing that absolutely need to work is the penetration tip. After that, whatever it does not matter. And let me give you one example. One of the broadhead I designed with Jim Burnsworth, every single blade on it, it basically got 4 set of blade, and the blades are 3.5 inch each. And it got 25 bleeding hooks on it. It's like an angry cricket. With the Yes, that broadhead will give you more bleed than you know what to do with. I just don't think the world is ready for this kind of broadhead. So I just put it on a hold. You got the pattern already, but I just don't feel like the world is ready because they don't know how to shoot basic stuff. The whole idea is that the structural integrity of the blade, is it good or bad, is based on one and only one thing. What is it designed to do? Let me give you an example. Like the angry cricket broadhead that I would just call it because we haven't named it. Actually, we did name it at one time. I called it the shrapnel. Because it's like shrapnels flying all over the place. The thing is that it doesn't do much, and every single blade is as soft as. I mean, just imagine if you're old enough to remember you open a can of Spam, that wire that you peel away. How sharp is it? Or how hard is it? It's super soft, isn't it? Have you ever tried to put your hand next to it?
I
You will have
haven't.
mosquito. You will have mosquito buffet. In other words, blood everywhere. So it is not about the sharpness, the thickness of the blade. The question is that what is that broadhead designed to do? Second, is that when that broadhead encountered the meat, what is its objective? Now, I mean, I'll just use an example that I do because I actually make those. I make a broadhead called the swing blade. It have a blade that you need is barely 3/8 of an inch long. And then you got blades on it that's 1 inch. But guess what? The 1 inch blade is so soft, it's made of spring steel. So in other words, you have no structural integrity at all. But you'll do one thing. If it touches meat, it'll slice the meat. It touches bones, it'll go around it. So is that blade bad? Let me ask this question. When you shoot through an animal, do you want a 3 inch blade to cut, say, a deer? You open the blade and the blade happens to open sideways and both blades hit the rib. And the blade is hard. And the rib is hard too. How much penetration you think you're going to get? The
Yeah,
blood, the rib cage will literally stop the blade.
yeah.
Think about it.
I think I think it might be a little bit different because you have a broadhead designed to do what a thin blade is supposed to do, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
broadhead companies that have a large cut aren't designing the blades to move around bone. It's strictly to cut
Correct.
flesh and stuff. And if you do encounter bone, your blades crumble and your penetration
Mm-hmm.
suffers anyway. So that's where it's a
Correct.
little bit different.
That's not just little different, it's a lot. And that's the reason I think the main key of when you look at a broadhead, you need to look at not the blade, not the tip, but the entire design and what it's supposed to do. I mean, to be frank with you, I even designed a mechanical broadhead like the swing blade Falcon, which at low speed will bleed decently. But if you shoot a crossbow at 375 and up with Aeroving 3, it is designed not to bleed. So yes, you hear me right. It's designed not to bleed at all. It was supposed to change the stage of the blood stage from a liquid stage to a foam stage. But that's a different story for a different time, because that is so involved in different what you call it, discipline of physics and the discipline of biology. You need to understand what you're trying to do. But then it's a lot of education, but that's what we're here for. But let's go back to other mechanical heads. I mean, like one of the old head, Green Reaper, it gives you the cutting size and so on, but it suffered on structural integrity because such a long head, and you just don't have enough material. And being a 6061 aluminum head, you know the ferrule is not strong. So, well, just like everything else, will it kill deer? Absolutely. You will kill deer very easily. It's a good head. It's a mechanical head. I mean, if you 70 pound, the 26, 27-inch straw at a deer 50 yard, done deal, no problem. And it's pretty good flying head too. I mean, this is what it is. You need to understand your equipment. What are you able to put down? Because people say, oh, my bow shoot 305 feet per second. Yes, at what point? Remember, when you travel distance, your speed will drop. That's the reason some people say, oh, I want much more power behind it. Yes, you increase your slug force, you increase your momentum. Under those conditions, yes, mechanical will open easier. No doubt. No doubt. So, in other words, all those are very good points and they are all valid. The question is that how do you manage all of the above to do what you want to do?
Yeah. I think the question that you asked is the most important question is like, what are you giving up when
Right.
you decide to shoot a mechanical broadhead? You have to know that yes, you have the advantage of getting a larger cut if that's what you want, but there
Mm-hmm.
are downsides to it.
And upsides too.
Right.
Because for example, like a lot of customers don't have the time to tune. Okay. And they just kind of get the bow to shoot right for whatever reason. Because I know the time, because I've been there. Imagine this: 15 days before hunting season, you're doing all project all year long. Now you finally say, I'm having vacation for 2 weeks.
Like, oh crap.
Okay, oh crap, my bow, I need to shoot my bow, and then you put your. I remember the days I was putting my silver flame from German
Grizzly stick.
Kinetics. No, the original silver flame. When
Oh,
Marcus was the guy, which is the original German Kinetics silver flame. I was trying to shoot that sucker. It can't. You know why? Because now I know my spine was too low, my drawing was wrong, my freaking riser cam plate was actually off. I mean, if the arrow fly through, only mean one thing: the deer is unlucky. And I just cannot get it done. And people, and then of course, me and my good buddy Paul, I remember that time. We both say, "Oh, they come with a Spitfire." That's how old I am. I actually was the first guy who bought Spitfire. I bought my Spitfire, he did too. And then we both go hunting. And the funny thing is, he went before me. He shot the deer, and the broadhead didn't go in at all. Spitfire. Then I go back to Terry and archery custom out in the forest park. He said, "This broadhead don't kill." You know what they sold him? They sold him the turkey Spitfire. Sorry, I can't
man.
help myself. I was laughing so hard. I say, did you look at the package? You say turkey, but turkeys have to kill, so I bought it. He bought a turkey Spitfire to shoot the deer. And because the round point, now this is another thing. The Spitfire work, but the turkey broadhead, the tip is round.
Yeah, that's
So
no
when it
good.
hit the deer, it didn't penetrate. It bruised and then the deer and the broadhead fall off. Yes, it was funny. I mean, that's one of the things you have for. I will forever look at him, when he talk about it. We'll laugh at him. But anyway, and of course, I bought the Spitfire and the original, the 2-blade ones. It works really good. But then I remember out in Martinos, I was the deer was saw me and tried to run away. I shot at it. The arrow go in really. That's a sharp angle. I would say it's close to 45 degrees or more. So the arrow go into the animal barely an inch, and the whole arrow swing forward because it's way quarter away. I think I got about maybe inch and a half penetration. And remember, I'm shooting a 80-pound oneida.
Yeah, that's a
I'm
lot of.
shooting at that time at 304 feet per second.
Wow.
So that tell you. So that is all about. First of all, that is where I'm able to hunt because I can't get the silver flame to fly at all because I'm shooting the spine of the arrow is too low. Now I understand all my problems. But then you have to went through what. If you have went through what I have went through, you'll be as good as that because you know all the stuff that you shouldn't do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have I guess a general question here. Rear deploying
Mhm.
blades, front deploying blades. In your opinion, the design of that, which one is better for penetration?
They are the same in some
Okay.
way because they both use energy. The front deployment blade, in some cases, are better in structural integrity because the blades are more, they control the blades better. I mean, is that any broadhead I think mechanically are extremely smart? I say yes, the Tekens, the G5 Tekens, in my opinion, is one of the best design mechanical head out there, bar none. The flying characteristic is perfect. I don't know why they discontinue it because I think just because they look for something newer, I'm the guy who believes if something works, don't screw around with it. I mean, just like one of the best non-mechanical broadhead was the Rocky Mountain Blitz. It was so well designed, except every single blade come to the factory misinstalled. They put the blade on the wrong side. If you want to fly far, it was funny though. But unlike others, they actually let the blade put the left or the right spin. If you want a broadhead to spin correctly, you don't flow with the blade, you counter the wind, which is exactly opposite from everybody who thought that, oh, you smooth around with the wind. No, you want to counter with the wind to disturb it so you have control. I mean, if you look at F-16 on the side of the cockpit, there's 2 ridges on it. You know why is it there? To disturb the wind flow so you have control. Because if you let the wind do whatever the wind to do, you are
You have
now
no
in the
control.
wind. You have no control. And just like a broadhead, if you let the wind do what it is, it will drift. So you need to disturb it so you are the one in control. Because
Okay.
see, can you trust the wind or air density as the arrow travels through the media? No, you don't.
Right.
That's the reason that some people say don't shoot over 25 yards. But the fact is that if you have well-designed broadhead, well make the arrow, you can actually shoot all the way. I mean, yes, all the way to about 130, 140 yards. I got customer from double archery. Andy will tell you he got customer shooting vertical bows at 130 yards with no issue and drop deers. Now, of course, I'm not saying that people should do that. The answer is that you or me were able to snipe a guy at 1,700 yards? Hell no. But if we have the training, we practice, we know our area, answer is absolutely.
Sure.
So it is not about, yes, equipment has to able to work first. Second, the skill level and also the experience had to come into play.
Okay. How about mechanical broadheads that will cut an O-ring to deploy? What's your thought on that?
Well, actually, the O-ring is not a bad design at all. As a matter of fact, if you look at my swing blade, it's O-ring too. But that was one problem. How many people remember to put a fresh O-ring before they go?
Yeah, no one.
See, just like O-ring clips, everything. I mean, like G5. I mean, no, like the Spitfire. Can you imagine you shoot the G5, but shoot the Spitfire into a block target a few times? You don't even have to, you not just have to replace the clip, you have to open the whole thing, clean all the shaft, put the new clip on it before you work. So why would the O-ring not be, why would you not replace those? Because it's just like when you gain something, you lose something. That was one thing I always told people. If you shoot mechanicals, look at your engagement mechanism and maintain it. I mean, it's like everything else. If you want simple, no maintenance, you go with the simplest form. It's like fishing rod. If you fish a lot, you know one piece. Two pieces, you're going to end up the first piece in the river.
Yeah.
Same thing with if you don't want to maintain your mechanical broadhead, don't use it.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
fair.
and then what it is that, and another thing that people also do not know. Oh, I should put the mechanical brand new in my quiver. I have not touched it for a year or two. Hey, your O-ring is no longer in an oil bag. It can dry rot.
Oh yeah.
So imagine if your broadhead actually deployed mid-air, where do you think it's going to be?
Yeah, that's bad. That's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. Because now your concentration is out, everything is out. You must well not hunt. That's the reason, I mean, very good point. Anybody who use mechanical broadheads, first of all, know your mechanical broadhead, know the retaining system, and you maintain it. Because just because it's brand new, like this another thing. Some people say, oh, I bought a 4-year-old broadhead on the shelf, brand new. Have you asked yourself, is the O-ring dry rotted? It can, especially some people. I remember one time I saw a company, they use colored O-ring to look cute. Colored rubber don't work. They're even more brittle. Stick with butyle, which is black.
Yeah, aren't G5s blue?
I try not to be too precise.
I think I shot like the G5 dead meats or something at one year, or it was one of those, but I was like pretty sure those had blue O-rings on them.
Yeah, it looks cool, but is the performance there? Remember, you add color. Your drawmeter on the rubber on behavior changed. Do you want performance or you look cute? First of all, who is looking at a broadhead besides you? You think the deer will look and say, "Gee, I won't be dead because you got blue color. I don't like blue. Maybe yellow."
Yeah, I
that
think
was the. But you know what? Broadhead are like lures. Do you know that most lures only a certain color work? All the rest is to lure customers. Fishermen is not to. They are useless to go fishing. I mean, it's like when the salmon season, you go up to Pavella, there's only one color, always gone. All the rest is still there. Because what? They're good looking, but they don't catch fish.
Yep.
Same thing with broadhead.
If it was all performance based, every vein on an arrow would be white. Every design on an arrow would be white. There's just, and all strings would be natural colored.
Absolutely.
I wish that was the case sometimes, because it would make things a hell of a lot simpler on our end.
Oh,
your end too, for carrying skews.
Yeah, but at the same time, making color is not a simple thing. I mean, just like I remember my vein colors, every single dye on the vein, I use Macalon because the density and flexibility is the same. When you add color, the plastic changes. That's the same thing with O-rings. If we change color, the plastic, the drawmeter change, the retaining property change. You maybe need a bigger one. You may rot easier.
Yep.
The butyl don't hold together the better. I mean, those things are how do I say it? You're going hunting, you're not going for fashion shows. But I understand. I fully do. Some people go hunting, show up on the place, they are like, what is the latest fashion pattern is what they had.
Yeah.
I just say, my favorite word is, I understand. I agree.
So there's a couple points I want to cover. No, the number one thing is the reason all this was on my mind. I want to get your opinions on this. I feel like a lot of the heavy arrow trend, the high FOC trend, a lot of the arguments people make is against a lightweight broadhead, because they always say, watch the hunting shows, watch the TV shows, and watch how many pass-throughs you see. Do you think, this is my opinion, and it's not proven. It's not it's just an opinion and a guess. I'm speculating,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like the combination in a lot of that was what you said: shot angle, number one,
Mm-hmm.
2, broadhead, 3, shot placement, not the
Mm-hmm.
arrow weight in those
Exactly.
scenarios.
Yes. If you shoot a two-blade broadhead and you shoot a heavy arrow and the distance is close, the arrow flight characteristic is not critical. If you shoot an animal that's like 30 yards, which is really where everything's all changed, at a is a, I would say, walking away shot or walking towards shot, and then you shoot a mechanical broadhead, like a front deploy, like a Spitfire, and your arrow flight characteristics is not good, you just exaggerate the problem. Not just marginally. We're talking 2-3 times.
Yeah.
Which is what I went through one with the small buck I did. The blade go in from the back, just behind just about at the end of the rib cage. It go in about 1.5 inches, and the air, because of the way they deploy the arrow blade the blade try to deploy. It's a 2-blade. So the blade try to deploy, it actually push the arrow out, and the arrow swing forward and drop to the ground.
Yep.
How much penetration I got? From I can see, the ferrule back of the Spitfire don't even got blood.
Yeah, that's bad news.
So we're talking about maybe 1.25 inch total penetration. And remember, I'm shooting an 80-pound Oneida on a 460 grain arrow. That's not a light arrow on an Oneida 80-pound.
No.
I
You're
got
close
enough
to dry
KE.
firing that thing.
Yes, and just remember, that bow have close to 100 KE on it. But then the bow is not well tuned. I don't know about aerodynamics. All this is where I do back in the 1980s. I mean 90s is where I give up the Northern, because I finally found out the bow I got was actually machine wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying people need to go through what I go through and learn, because unfortunately, some people like myself can't learn well and keep on thinking it was something and try to go one way or the other. I go from extreme lightweight. I remember the days of shooting 24-inch arrow on a 29-inch draw. I got a 5-inch overdraw. I mean, at the same time, those, are they good? If you shoot the deer, technically all mechanical broadhead, if you able to get it fly reasonably well, because mechanical broadhead really help you fly. Now, let me tell you what will absolutely guarantee a good mechanical broadhead for flying characteristic. Now, this is another thing. Flying characteristic is one of the biggest deal that most people don't understand. The shorter the broadhead overall, the better. That's the reason, I really think the G5 Tekken, that one was one of the best design, because it's so short.
Yeah.
Because it matches the physical shape of your viewpoint.
For better flight.
And for way better flight. The only downside with the Tekken is that every time you shoot through an animal and so on, you need to change the retaining system. So what's bad about it?
Yeah.
To be frank with you,
if it did its job.
Let's ask this question. How many animals for most of the, say, city slicker hunter really shot at a year?
Not many.
I mean, you're hard pressed to push 2.
Yeah, and you buy
seriously,
a couple packs of broadheads every year.
Right, because it's like my beginning of my, every time I go fishing, do I really need to buy lures? No, but it seems to be part of the ritual. Do I really need another pack of jig head? No, but I go anyway. It's like, oh, let's look at it. What's new?
Yep.
No, whatever you got work, but it's just part of the deal. So yes, does mechanical broadhead a real good alternative? Answer is yes. But then you need to understand, just like everything else in life, including hunting, especially at hunting, you need to think of what you want to do, what you're trying to accomplish, what your objective is before you go forward. Just because it worked for somebody somewhere, somehow, it does not mean it worked for you.
Yeah.
Because if you're on a super heavy, like I would tell, one of the DNL guy I know up in Wisconsin, who I set up for, Duchesne, that's the last name. And he is going for pronghorn, and I set him up with my swing blade. Guess what? He missed every single one of them. It's a mechanical broadhead. It's perfect flight. How come he missed every single pronghorn he was trying to shoot at? Because he was crawling.
Oh yeah, you told me about that. Yeah. The
If you
blades
got a
were.
mechanical head, you got a mechanical head that's easy to be deployed, and you crawl. What do you think the grasses, the branches, the leaves going to do with your broadhead?
Yeah.
That's the reason, for that situation, a split fire may be your best choice. But at the same time, if you shoot a pronghorn that is shoot a mule deer that's in grass, do you really want a mechanical?
No.
At that moment, a range would be better because it's rear deployed compared to a Spitfire. Because if a Spitfire catch that the grass, it's going to open and then you never make the target. The range will at least go in because it is a backward deployed, just like the Rocky Mountain Gators. The range is quite a glorified Rocky Mountain Gator.
Yeah.
Now then, people say, how about side swing blade with the nip on the side and it open up, keep cutting up to 3-inch? Same thing. What instead are you looking flying characteristic? Is the broadhead able to forgive something and so you fly through? I mean, those are all things you think about. And people say, well, that's too much thinking. Hello, my friend. If you don't want to go basic, maybe you should give up hunting.
Yeah.
And then, no, I'm not trying to be facetious. It's the truth. Because if you just want something simple, something whatever, you can go and stick with mechanical. But you know what happened for those guys who have heavy FOC, long draw. The spine is never going to be right. You're never going to get the bow tune right. Yes, can you eventually get it right? Yes, eventually you will. When you put enough, I mean, that's the reason I said the arrow concept is one of the best things that will save you.
Yep. One of my favorite broadheads, mechanical broadheads. Well, I guess it's not a mechanical broadhead. I'm not a mechanical guy. I shot mechanicals for a couple of years, and honestly, I never had an issue. I had pass-throughs on both bucks that I shot with mechanical broadhead. But I just couldn't get away from the mental game that it played in my head that there was something in that broadhead that could fail. There was something that could happen that could fail. So I'm a fixed blade guy. But anyway, one of my favorite.
Let me bring it back to you on this specifically. Everything will fail. A fixed blade will fail. If you shoot a super heavy FOC with a fixed blade and the flight characteristic is so bad, the fixed blade will fail too, especially a two blade.
Yeah, I don't.
So
in other words, sense.
In other words, is that you need to know your equipment and what you're trying to do with it. I'm a true believer is that a mechanical or a fixed blade will absolutely both work very well as long as it fit your style of hunting and the way your setup is.
Yeah.
The thing is that remember, the mechanicals are for people who don't have time. I fully understand. There's a lot of people like myself back then. If you do consulting, you do all the work or tradesman, you're on the road all these years. And then now you got hunting season is around the corner. You got 8 days, 10 days, 15 days to get ready.
Yeah.
And your arrow just don't shoot like the way you should. On every single broadhead you have in your arsenal. Do you give up hunting that year? Hell no. So at that moment, mechanical broadhead, some of them will give you the benefit. But at the same time, you also need to understand, okay, I'm shooting, say, a Spitfire. I need to make sure the deer was broadside towards me, totally broadside. I don't do the far away shot.
Yeah.
I don't do the angle shot. You cannot, because at that moment, the word unethical come into full play.
Yeah. Yeah. That is what Chad did last year. Waited to the last minute before he went to September. Or waited to the last minute before he went to Idaho in September and was trying to get his fixed blade broadheads to shoot and couldn't get him to shoot past 40 yards because his bow wasn't tuned. And he just threw, which was I was going to say is one of my favorite mechanical style broadheads is the Afflictor Hybrid K2 Mini, which it's small. It's a mini ferrule, which you were talking about. But he shot an elk with it, full pass through.
Well, actually,
awesome blood trail.
I need to sort of remind you that some states mechanicals are absolutely no. Just be
Yeah,
careful.
Idaho's not one of them.
Which is good because I remember back then Idaho is one of them. Is no mechanical, no light and nocks. I know the law changed for quite a few of them.
Yeah.
For some places, for some animals, they absolutely would not let you use mechanical. It's not that the mechanical is bad, but most people don't know how to use it right.
Right.
That's the
Right.
problem again. You should use it right.
Yeah. And just to my point on failure, I didn't mean like failure as in not penetrating. I meant as failure as in the blades opening in my quiver, the blades opening in flight, the blades not opening.
Yep.
A fixed blade broadhead can't do that. Like the blades are
Absolutely.
fixed. So that's what I
Yes.
meant by that.
Oh, absolutely. You just got another layer of mechanical that have to work. Can you call it a failure? No. I mean, like I vividly remember when I doing the engineering class, one of the example the professor have said that one of the most complicated extreme on the mechanical engineering is the Su-20 landing gear from Russia. It bends 6 different ways before it touched the ground. Anybody knows you shouldn't do that. But the fact is that the engine and everything is the way, so they have to do it. So the answer is that do you not do it or you do it?
Yeah.
The answer is that if you have to do it and all the limitation, this is your answer. Like for the guy, right? I mean, you don't have time, and then there's nothing will fly right except say XYZ mechanical broadhead. Do you not hunt?
Oh no, you're going hunting.
Exactly. So at that moment, you know there's going to be all kind of downside, but what's the alternative?
Yeah.
If you're like me, there is no alternative. I'm going.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that. I need to start practicing with broadheads here soon. I gotta buy some more of those. What I shoot last year, not the Tomahawk,
No, you shot the dagger.
The dagger. Yeah, which pretty outstanding. Pretty outstanding.
The dagger. Yeah, the dagger is simple, and people say it's not sharp enough. I say, have you ever been cut by a ceramic knife? They are sharp, but they don't feel sharp when you first cut yourself until you bleed everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I wish I couldn't recover my arrow. I blew so far through the deer, I never found it. So there goes a pretty expensive broadhead on the end of that thing. But it did the job.
This year you should be. I told you should be very focused on how to use your lighter nocks.
Yeah, I think that'll be.
Talk about.
I think that's like you said, that's a topic that's not really understood enough.
No, actually, the lighter knock topic was not understood by so many people because everybody thought a lighter knock is just light on the back of the arrow. No, it is a lot more involved. Why do you think? I mean, let me brag a little bit. Do you know at Firenock we make over 10,000 variations of lighter knock? No, you'd hear me right. 10,000 variations.
That's sickening.
And people say lighter knock just light up, right? No. Just like if you buy a latest flashlight, if the flashlight just light, yeah, it flashes and then if it light up and then it blinks, it change colors and it blink in different frequencies and so on. Why do they do that? What's the intention behind it? Oh, okay, let me start. I put my professor's shirt on. A lighter knock is not just a lighter knock. It's a way to visualize what you intend to do. Because after the arrow left the bow, there's nothing that connects you to the arrow anymore. A lighter knock gives you a lot better sense of what happened to the arrow and what after the shot. Because first of all, you help you recover the arrow significantly. If you shoot in a CRP field without a lighter knock and you shoot through animal and you shoot a ground blind, if you can just immediately find your arrow, you're beyond lucky. Have you ever seen the shooting a CRP on a ground blind with an arrow? When you shot it, you're not gonna find it.
Yeah, that's not.
With the lighter knock, you got a chance, especially after sundown. Now, just again, a lighter knock. People say, well, how about the light? Do you know that we actually, at this moment, we make 3 different functions of light in Firenock? Yes, you hear me right. Function. a lot of people do not recognize our Firenock hunting knock is actually a blinking light of 1,000 times per second over a 10,000 cycle. Think about what I just said. Imagine you cut one second into 1,000 sectors, and you blink it in every 10,000th of a second, it blink once. So by sense of electricity, you only 1/10 the power, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you got a solid light because your eyes cannot pick up anything over 28 times per second, and I'm giving you 1,000. Which also that is actually a fuzzy logic computer running on 10 hertz. I'm not going to go into computer class today, so I'll skip that portion. That's if you shoot it on October 1st, that sucker should be still lit, if not by Thanksgiving all the way through Christmas.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that's what you're looking at. That's the Firenock hunting circuit, which is a so-called solid light. But then we also recognize for people who do ground blind, you need a lot brighter light. So we actually also make the blinking light. Actually, that was from the days of the Firenock when it was a project instant runway. The blinking light was the first light when we shoot the instant runway to the ground. That blinking light had one capability that all others do not have. It's visible up to 2 miles in total darkness.
Wow.
Yes, you hear me right. But people say, why do 2 miles? Well, if you're flying to land, how far do you want to be before you see the runway?
Yeah, and that's what they were designed for. Yeah,
exactly. So what did we do for the blinking light? There's a capacitor in it. Imagine this: you divided 2 seconds into 10 sectors. I'm going to charge the capacitor 9/5, another 1.8 seconds into the capacitor, and then burst them out in 0.2 seconds. That's the reason it gives you no less than 2 miles in total darkness. Can it be longer? Answer is yes. Depends on how the battery condition is.
that's crazy.
That's the blinking light. Because I designed this, I was doing all the practicing and so on. I actually designed a third function. It's called target. The target version, that means the moment you shot it, it run on a digital timer.
Oh yeah.
17 seconds after you shot it, 17 seconds later, it shut itself off. People say, what do you mean by that? Who need that? I say, everybody who actually hunts, who should have at least one target knock, if not 2, in their quiver.
For practicing.
No. Imagine this, you're on a tree, and there's a raccoon, just don't leave you alone, which need to die. You know those need to die moments?
Yeah.
Do you want to go down and shut the light?
No.
Especially a blinking light.
Yeah.
Or this is another good one. I tell my customer, imagine this, you're in the middle of the rut. You got a long doe, you got 2 tags. You got a long doe walking right in front of you, looking at the back, but there's no buck there. Do you want to shoot it with a lighter lock that stays on a blinking lock?
No.
It's broad daylight. You know you're going to get that pass through in a heartbeat. That's the reason you take your arrow out, you put your archery knock, which is your auto shut-off knock. You shot at the deer. Now you know the flight path. Do you know that just in case a branch or leaf catch you, you should at least know where your arrow is. So the arrow will pass through that deer, touch the ground. You look at the deer, walk a few, maybe if you shoot good, the deer should die within 30 yards. So within sight. Then your lighter knock, after 17 seconds from the time you shot, is shut off. How's your scenery? Maintain the same.
Yeah.
Now you know you better put on your blinking knock or your solid fire knock waiting for the buck because it's going to show up just like 15 minutes before legal. No, after legal. And you know you always happen like that.
Oh yeah.
That's where the blinking knock and also the hunting knock come into play. But then you also know one thing. Is that I told my customer who do solos, especially Oregon, Washington hunt, you go to backcountry. I said, take 3 of my blinking knock with you. Even if you don't use it, just leave it in the backpack. Because see, if you really get yourself in trouble, you call out for help, guess what you can do? Strike 3 on the blinking knock and put on an arrow and make yourself a triangle. you now got a ring of fire around you that's visible in 2 miles.
Yeah, that's
You
pretty.
will be found.
Yeah, that's.
And that is one of the most safety features. Say, think about it. My lighter knife is less than what? $70? $70 buys you a flare
Yeah.
that you can use when you feel like it. Or another thing, the blinking, when you walk in the woods in the middle of the night to track a deer, the lighter nocks actually is not a good indicator, a solar light. You know why? A twig will block your light,
Oh, sure, yeah.
but a blinking light will give you a 1 meter halo. So your lighter knock and behind a tree, the halo would give you that whole halo. Boom, boom. So if you like me hunting, say, I remember the time I was hunting in Martinos. I was walking all the way to the back past the dovetail. I mean, I turn around, I don't see anything because there's no moon that night. I can't find it. I said, oh, I just hope that I have my lighter knot with me. Of course, back then I figured that, I don't bring that many arrows. Now I bring at least 4.
That makes sense. Before we dive, there's more I want to cover on lighted nocks, but my time's running out, so we'll do.
No problem. Next time we'll do it, we'll talk about colors.
Yep.
And also batteries, because I think a lot of people do not understand that portion too.
Yeah. Yep. So that's the plan. If you guys are getting ready for hunting season, make sure you're checking out what Dorge has to offer with the lighted nocks, broadhead selection. And as he mentioned, make sure you're getting to know your equipment. And if you have any questions for us, our emails are always in the show notes. Dorge, thank you for taking the time out.
Oh, anytime.
Hunting season is quickly approaching. So
Yes.
got
Tell me about it. I just ordered my bowstring.
Oh
I
man.
need a new one.
Yep.
I know it's getting close, but you know what? It's better now or never.
Yep. Yep. So we got some preparation to do. Until next time, fellas, we'll talk to you.